It is so funny. I just wrote about this on Threads yesterday, that I'm going to re-record this video today for the second time. But actually it's the third. I'm not at home, and I went to sit in my car just to have better audio. And it's so hot outside, I was sweating my balls off. So here's to the third time. Do you ever realize how your taste changes over time? Influenced by anything, really. Have you ever thought about it as having a taste library where you add and take away stuff from, and you build your library of taste? Whether it is food, what you like to drink in the morning, what camera you like to use to go shoot street photography or whatever, right? How your specific workflows are for things that you like to do. Adding photos, cooking, putting on a good barbecue, stuff like that. For example, I used to hate using the built-in camera flash, the pop-up flash, or even using like system flashes like on the hot shoe directly, like having the flash on the same axis as the lens. I hated that back in the day when I started, especially. That was the heyday of like the strobist movement, like when that came up and was like going like super strong. And off-camera flash, everyone, not everyone, you know, it was quite the hype back then. My taste in photography and using flash in photography was certainly informed by that, right? And formed by that. So that's kind of one point. And how I actually came to this thought and wanted to talk about this is that since last year, I started using on-camera flash, or like rather on-axis flash, more and more again, or at all, and actually enjoy it. Well, it's not really true that it's just been last year. With like Instax cameras and like, you know, instant cameras in general, I've been doing it a bit longer, but for the longest time we didn't have another choice there anyway, so besides not using flash. But actively putting the flash on axis with the lens, shooting photos. Last year on my shoot with Germany, I think the idea was more to create or recreate like a bit more of a old school Hollywood vibe. A modern take on it, but you know, going there rather than trying to be Tyler Shields or Tay Richardson. Both of them who, and I actually don't know, I could have researched that, but I don't know who started that, doing that more, or first rather, and then, because both of them really perfected that portrait style, right? With the on-camera flash and like keeping the flash really close to the lens, and they were just, or they are masters at that. My last shoot I had like a couple of weeks ago with Mila, I also used my Fuji X100 with a built-in flash, and the flash there, it's obviously quite small, it's not the strongest, so the recycle times are longer than if I use one of my Pro Photo flashes or something. And I have this one photo I will put up on the screen, which I also posted to my Instagram as a reel, just like cycling through the two photos. It's basically the same photo. One is with available light, properly lit. Everything is like the available light is just, it's a beautiful photo, right? The other one though is when the flash popped, and She didn't move, nothing changed in the scenery. It's the exact same photo, just like going back and forth. It's so nice to see. And I just caught myself enjoying that so much that both photos worked out that way, and that I enjoy both styles. And I thought it's so interesting how we, especially nowadays, I'm sure it's gotten worse in the past 10 years, but even in the past, or over the past 20 years, discourse on the web has definitely changed. And I mean, between each other anyway, as humans, but as an online society, I feel like we need to actively do a little bit more to maybe tone it back down a little bit, just to be more friendly, to be more welcoming, to be just more positive in general. It's not even to be that more accepting of other people, because I think most people actually are, but it's more about the language we use than the opinion itself. And especially if you look at influencers, feels like such a dirty word nowadays, but influencers and content creators and all that, often the language that is used is very definite and it's very absolute and it's very, oh, this is the way to do it. And in fact, we all know that the one way doesn't normally exist, right? There are always so many different ways to come to a goal, whether it's photo editing, shooting a photo, making a pizza, brewing your own beer, whatever, right? Well, I actually don't know anything about brewing beer, so I should not talk about that. And it's so funny because we get very close to talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect as well, but stuff goes hand in hand. So I think it is important to try and be more aware of the language we use, even though, obviously, language has always changed. And it always feels weird that phrases and words that you used 20, 30 years ago are being used differently maybe today, or, the context around them changes. But having awareness around that and how that could influence others who read your words, listen to your words, how that affects them, right? And if everything is the best, and the one thing that really got me was someone was talking about influencers doing honest reviews. Oh, this is my honest opinion about this and that. Yeah, no, really? I mean, we would hope so, but does that mean that everything that you don't title an honest review isn't one? What the? What's happening? That was funny. So, for example, there's this group of photographers out there who only shoot in JPEG, and not to save space necessarily or to make their life easier, but because shooting JPEG is, for them, it's straight out of camera without manipulating the photo, right? Contrary to someone who shoots RAW and normally imports or has to import their photos into a RAW converter like Lightroom, or do it in Camera Raw or whatever app or program you use, right? And then do the RAW conversion. And I personally would go and say well, in my opinion, I think you've misunderstood how this works, right? In my opinion, it's if you use the JPEG, you've let some engineer somewhere at Canon, Sony, Nikon, Fuji do the raw conversion for you. They decided because they still use the same raw data that comes through the lens into the, sensor and comes out of that file. I just personally decided to do that myself. And, well, both digital files were manipulated, right? And I used to have very strong opinions about that, or air those opinions very strongly and loudly. But look, if that's what you think is the right thing to do, cool, man. There's nothing really wrong with that. Even if it can be a little bit condescending, I feel like, oh, I do not have to work on my pictures. Okay, that's fine. I have to. I decide to. I mean, back in the day, it's the same thing with film, right? Where people are like, oh, film is so... Well, there's a certain look to the film stock, right? Depending on the film stock. It can differ a lot. But while developing, you're already putting so many different decisions and things in there that decide how the film can come out, right? You can be developing two rolls of film next to each other with the same chemicals in the same instances. But if you just leave one roll in whatever stage a little bit longer in there, or change the temperature a little bit or whatever, you'll have a different result, right? Let's change our perspective a little bit. So, it already sounded probably a little bit negative, right? How I delivered that. But there's no harm in any of it. If you decide to do it this way or that way, if we on both or on all of those sides of like, am I team JPEG, am I team RAW, am I team whatever, right? Whatever, if there's an in between, or if you only shoot analog film, or there's so many parameters. I keep struggling with. There's so many options how to get to what is your final picture, how to get there, all the decisions you've made from taking the picture, settings in your camera, etc., etc., etc. That there is no real right and wrong. And I think if people would start to try and be more aware about their own feelings and their taste and opinions, and just the fact that there's possibility for change, right? There's possibility that your taste library expands or changes or even like compresses maybe at some point, right? I love pizza. I've always loved pizza. And I used going for like crazy combinations of my pizzas and stuff. Nowadays, I'm 46 years old. The best thing you can do for me is a margherita pizza. If I go like really crazy, it's a pepperoni pizza. Listen, but if you like pineapple on that sucker, you go. You do you. And I love that for you. I don't even know if I made my point. This is the third time I'm recording this. I mentioned that, right? I even have a script. Being aware, or trying to be aware, and trying to be more aware than we were before about the language we use when we talk about stuff like our opinions. And also, the importance of that. Because when we talk about a fucking, pardon my French, Star Wars show that you don't enjoy, that's fine. Don't watch it. You can even say that you don't like it. Nobody's keeping you from that. But stop shitting on people. Stop with the threats of violence and whatever else, right? Like, oh, I'm going to sue the Wikipedia. Dude, first of all, just reading that sentence. I'm going to sue the Wikipedia. Are you alright, little bro? These are all very unimportant, silly things. Anyway, talked enough. Have a good one. Bye!
音楽大好き。これは RBMA ラジオ。